Ladies, puberty, PMT, pregnancy, the menopause. Yes, your hormones have been taking you for a ride for years. Hot flushes on the bus, menopausal meltdowns in the office. Whatever those hormones have made you do, Jenny Smith and Kate Bauss are here to lend a sympathetic ear. Why not write in and share your hormonal hell with the girls? Don't worry, they've heard it all before. It's time to put those hormones in the firing line. This is Dear Hormones. Welcome to your safe space, ladies. Coming up on today's show, Kate's menopause watch continues, an expensive hormonal mishap, and why keeping fit in the menopause could be bad for your health.
Hello and welcome back to Dear Hormones. Hi, Kate.
Hello, Jenny.
And how have you been this week, Kate? Because last week, if you remember, and I'm sure you do, you shared your very first menopausal, perimenopausal, ragey type story with us, which makes me think that Kate's menopause watch has definitely gone up a notch. Is there anything to share from the last 7 days?
So it's funny that you should ask, Jenny.
Oh, really?
Well, literally, after leaving your house after we recorded last week, I went outside and I had a bit of a moment. I walked towards the car in the side street, just I walked out of your house to the right and down that side street, towards my car, so I thought, and the car wasn't there.
Oh no, did you immediately think it'd been stolen?
Of course I did. I was convinced that I had forgotten to lock the car. And I had a proper moment, you know, when it's just that feeling of total sickness where like the sort of bottom falls out of your stomach and you think, oh my gosh, this is disastrous. This is awful. The car has gone. And I had to really sort of tell myself, because I was really panicking. And I had to just tell myself, calm down. There could be a logical explanation for this. And of course, there was a logical explanation, which was that I had just turned the wrong way out of your house and I shouldn't have turned right. I should have turned left and it was down a different side street. And there was the car. But I think that sort of panic and that having forgotten where I parked the car and doubting myself as well. I was thinking, gosh, I'm forgotten to lock the car.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit of a moment. And then there was also a moment that I had in the bank.
Hang on, we've had two incidents this week.
Well, now this moment actually had already happened when we were recording, and I think I didn't tell you about it, but
right.
you mentioned, I think, because I'd just come back from collecting some money. I'd just gone to the bank that morning when we were recording. So this was all the same morning. I think I was having a little bit of a crazed morning that morning. Everything was a little bit rushed. So sorry, apologies, listeners, if I came across as a bit crazed in our last episode. But yes, when I was in the bank, I did have a bit of a moment that I haven't told you about, which was as I was walking towards the bank, I was doubting myself and thinking, what happens if when I get there and I have to get this money out for our builders, what happens if I can't remember my PIN code? And I don't know why this thought came to me, but I just thought, what if I can't remember it? And then, of course, I got there and the lovely lady says, what's your PIN code, please? 4-digit PIN code. And I think because I'd been thinking maybe I'm not going to be able to remember it, lo and behold, I couldn't remember it.
Oh, no.
I couldn't remember it. And then I panicked and that just made it all worse. And I started sort of just reeling off slightly random numbers. Kind of like, is it?
Did she let you try lots of different numbers?
In the end, I tried a couple of different options, which I thought it could be. And then I thought, right, calm down. And I thought, if I'm right, I said, would you just give me a moment, please? Fortunately, I was the only person in there. So this was a really good thing. And I sort of got my phone out and I tried to write down what I thought it'd be. I thought if I can see it visually, maybe that will help me. But then there were 4 different possibilities. So I wrote down all of these 4 different possible PIN codes. And she's a lovely lady and I'd seen her before. And I just showed her. I showed her all 4 and I said, could you please try these for me?
And did she?
She did.
I can't, that's amazing. Like you say, I suppose she knew you from going into the bank, but that's very, very generous because I remember I've been on phone calls before trying to get through online banking security, and there's no way I would have been able to rattle off 4 potential PIN numbers. So that was very lucky. Oh, Kate, that does feel like to me like you are starting. Well, we know you're starting, but it's escalated a little bit with this perimenopausal, the anxiety, the doubting yourself, which I obviously can relate to. And interestingly, Kate, you've just mentioned that about your PIN number, and I have just remembered something that happened to me about my PIN number, which actually I'm going to write it into a letter.
Oh, tell me now. Tell me now.
I'm not going to tell you now. I think it's good enough to write up. Also, Kate, I don't know whether you can notice, but right now I'm actually having a hot flush.
Are you actually?
Yes.
Oh.
I tell you, Kate, I'm not myself at the moment. I'm definitely, there's some things afoot. And actually the story that I will share with you in a couple of weeks, maybe, about the PIN number will definitely confirm that.
Oh.
Anyway, I think we should just crack on with this podcast, Kate.
Okay.
So, letter number 1, this is called Blind, and it comes from, there's no name. So we'll give her a quick name. It comes from Sally.
Sally.
In,
one of my good friends, Sally.
Yeah. Okay. So it starts like this in capital letters. Things no one ever tells you about the menopause. It can be fucking expensive. Here we go. Dear Jenny and Kate, while I was in the midst of the perimenopause and experimenting with different doses of estrogen, I'd get a whopping migraine every few weeks. I'd have pain on one side of my head, a watery eye that I couldn't see out of, and major brain fog. The pain would lift after a few hours and I'd be functional again, but the brain fog and sight issues would linger, combined with an hour or two of, yes, I can conquer the world, euphoria. A dangerous combination. One evening, I was coming out of the painful phase and was scrolling through my phone one-eyed. Oh dear. I discovered a band beloved by me and my other half were playing at Ali Pali the following month, and tickets were selling fast. We had to go. Not only that, but we had to take our 14-year-old twins with us, whether they liked it or not. I went to the ticket website, swiftly put 4 tickets into the basket for 160 quid. 40 quid per ticket. Reasonable enough, I thought. Whew. I clicked buy, and that was that. I was elated. Called the other half over. He looked at the sales confirmation message and said, "Oh my God, what have you done?" I'd gone through a ticket tout website and hadn't noticed because I couldn't see properly. And I hadn't bought 4 tickets for £160. I bought 4 tickets at £160 each.
No.
We were spending £640 to see Suede. A band I love dearly. I love Suede, by the way, but not that much. And a quick look at the Ali Pali website showed that tickets were indeed only £40. I'd been absolutely fleeced.
Oh, God,
what
no.
A nightmare. Oh my God.
Is there anything she could do? If you've just placed the...
I don't know. Here we go. We tried going through the bank to cancel the transaction. No luck. We tried contacting the company. No refund allowed. It was the most expensive concert I have ever been to. And fortunately, it was brilliant and the kids loved it. And my other half was remarkably sanguine about it all. But we've since agreed that I will never, ever make an online purchase again when I can't see, can't think, and believe I'm God Almighty. Dear bloody hormones, indeed.
Dear bloody hormones. Oh, my God. Wow. I mean, she's incredible that she was able to go along to that concert and enjoy it, because I think the whole time I would have been just really annoyed that I'd lost out on £480 or whatever it is that I didn't need to.
Yeah. And actually, Kate, having been to the theatre with you, and we've had this conversation, haven't we, about seats at the theatre, you flatly refused to spend over, I don't know, a certain amount at the theatre. I kind of get that. And we once went to the theatre, Kate and I, and she booked seats that were so high up I practically got a nosebleed. But not only that, there was something weird with the seats. Do you remember? They were like half width. They were half width seats. So you were kind of like perched on sort of like a bench, but not a bench. It was yeah.
They were actually the worst seats I've ever sat in. So I'm really sorry about that. That's not always my experience of going to the theatre. Normally I'm quite good at seeking out cheap tickets that are actually still really good, but those ones really weren't, and I felt terrible about it. Plus we went to see something that I don't think was quite up your son's street. But anyway.
It definitely wasn't up his street. In fact, he mentioned it the other day, Kate.
No!
Because we went to the theatre to see a brilliant show called The Old Man in the Pool. I think that's what it's called, The Old Man in the Pool. It's really brilliant, really funny show. It's finished now. And we had really comfy seats because they upgraded us. So we were actually quite high up for this one. I actually did book the higher up ones. And we had the best seats ever in the Royal Circle right in the middle. And then he said, do you remember that?
Oh, no.
Do you remember when we went to the theatre with Kate?
I feel awful.
We had to sit on those half seats. And he goes, and the show was rubbish because it wasn't, like you say, we loved it, didn't we? But
loved it.
It wasn't up his street.
My Fair Lady, if I can say what it was. I will always love My Fair Lady. Yeah. It's one of my favourite films of all time.
I just don't think it was one for he was probably 15 at the time. Was he 14? I can't remember. It wasn't his thing.
But goodness, £160 per ticket that didn't need to be spent. Oh. That's very interesting about this lovely lady's eye, that she can't see.
Yes.
When through one of her eyes, after she's had that migraine.
Yeah, migraines.
That's something I hadn't heard of either.
Yeah, migraines are really funny things, aren't they?
I've not had a migraine before ever. So hence my lack of knowledge, and I'm sorry for my...
Yeah, well, I think I've started to get them again, a menopause thing, where sort of every few weeks I'm getting, not to the extent where I can't see, but headaches that are lasting for about 3 or 4 days at a time, really piercing sort of pain right over an eye, actually, over my left eye. So this poor lady.
Oh, it's not fair. Horrid. But I'm glad that Suede was great.
Yeah, I love Suede. You know what? I probably would have spent £160 to see Suede. Would I? No, perhaps not.
But did you go and see Suede?
No, I didn't actually. I kind of wish I had. I'd have bought the tickets off her if only we'd known her.
So on to letter number 2. This comes to us from Rachel in London, and it is entitled Baby Hormones. This is making me think a little bit of our story from Eileen back in our first season, Baby Hormones.
Please go and have a listen to Eileen's brilliant letter about the baby clinic.
One of our favourite letters ever.
Yeah.
Right, so this letter from Rachel. Dear Jenny and Kate, I remember being told at an NCT class that baby girls can sometimes have little periods as a result of taking on too much of mum's estrogen. Goodness, I did not know that.
I didn't know it either.
But to be honest, I hadn't really taken it in, as I was more preoccupied with the impending birth and what pain relief I was planning to take.
That's interesting, isn't it? Because do you remember, did you do NCT classes?
Not NCT, but I had
or something similar.
Sort of, yeah.
Because isn't it funny how you spend probably 90% of those classes talking about the birth?
Yes.
And actually it's the most insignificant bit of the whole thing, really, isn't it? Like you just spend week after week after week of what pain relief you're going to get and, you know, what position you might be in. And this might happen when you give birth. But actually, once that bit's over.
Did you see the surprise in my eyes when you said that the birth is like the not significant bit? I think the birth was massively significant for me.
I don't mean it like that. I mean, they put a lot of emphasis on the actually giving birth bit of the NCT class. Yeah. Obviously, the giving birth is the most significant bit.
The pain relief. I'm glad they put emphasis on pain relief from my own point of view.
Yeah. Ooh. No, that was all really good. But I feel like so much of it was spent talking about, you know, what pain relief is going to be, how painful it's going to be. Are you going to have an epidural?
Yes.
The answer was yes to that, by the way. And not enough about everything else that comes with that when you've actually got the baby in your arms and everything that happens next. You know, that's the bit I think that you need the help the most.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, sorry.
You have got a good point.
Carry on, Kate.
Oh, right. So when at only 3 weeks old, I saw bright red blood in my daughter's nappy, I completely panicked and called 111. I was terrified. I would have been too.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
I don't remember that at all. So yes, I would have been. I don't blame you, Rachel.
Yeah.
I soon found out that sure enough, my daughter had taken on too much estrogen from me and was to all intents and purposes going through an early puberty. She actually had 3 little periods across the space of around 3 weeks and also developed quite severe acne all over her face and body. I remember watching people's faces when they came over and peered into her pram. They were like, ah, ooh, when they saw the little pustules all over her skin.
Oh, a little thing.
I remember the doctor warning me not to pop them. Anyway, during this time, I was having a nightmare with breastfeeding
I wasn't producing anywhere near enough milk, and my daughter was having a really hard time latching on. It had got so bad that I booked a lactation consultant to come over and help me with it. She was a lovely woman, really patient and kind, and I remember that she had got me to lie down on the sofa with the baby next to me and try to get her to feed that way. Finally, I seemed to be lactating. Milk was actually gushing out, but unfortunately my daughter wasn't latching on to get any of it. I remember saying, "Well, at least I've got loads of milk coming in," to which the consultant replied, "That's not you. That's coming from your baby." My daughter had developed little marble breasts due to the excess in estrogen and was squirting from them left, right, and centre.
Oh no.
Even my baby was doing this better than me. Thankfully, after about 6 weeks, the estrogen levels were back to normal. The acne cleared up and she was no longer doing a better job at milk production than her mum. It just goes to show how powerful hormones can be.
Too bloody right. I can't believe it, Kate. I've never heard of anything like that before. Have you?
That story is just insane to me. I really can't believe it.
Yeah. I wasn't told that in my NCT class. They didn't know if I was having a boy or girl. So that would have absolutely freaked me out. At least they had told her. I know she was still really worried about it, but at least she remembered being told about it. But yeah, never heard that before. Thank you so much, Rachel, for sharing that with us.
Absolutely.
So our next letter is, this is quite exciting. So this is from the comedian Zoe Lyons.
Ooh, I know Zoe Lyons.
Yes. So for my photography project that I'm doing, where I'm photographing 40 women all over the age of 40, Zoe kindly agreed to be part of that project. So I spent a lovely morning with her down in Hove, down in Brighton, a few weeks ago, and she shared this story with me. So I said, "Oh, please, can I read it out on the podcast?" So it's just a short one, but actually, when I read it, I thought, yes, that's me. I've been doing that. Well, part of it's me, you'll see. Part of it's not. But the clumsiness is me. So this is called Clumsy, and it's from Zoe Lyons. "Dear Jenny and Kate." She didn't actually say "Dear Jenny and Kate."
No.
She just told me the story, but I've added that in. That's why I said it like that. Okay. "Women need to keep exercising into menopause to stay strong. And there is now lots of research that shows that lifting weights is good for us as we age. I started doing CrossFit a few years ago and I really love it. I have found, though, that my hormonal clumsiness can get quite bad. My coordination is all over the place. So this week at the gym, I managed to smack myself in the face while attempting a clean and jerk." I'm just going to stop there.
What's a clean and jerk?
I have no idea what a clean and jerk is, because this is the bit that's not like me, the actual exercising bit. The coordination, yes, but the exercising, no. But it obviously sounds like something, I don't know, fast. And she says, "It made a proper clanking sound. I was so embarrassed, and I woke the next day with a real shiner."
So she whacked herself with a weight
In the face.
Oh,
well,
Zoe.
while attempting a clean and jerk. What we'll do is quick Google. Everybody Google what a clean and jerk is, and then we can visualize Zoe doing this. She says, "I'm weirdly proud of it," of the black eye. "I'm keeping fit, but you need to give me a wide berth as my movements are largely unpredictable." The bit that really rung true for me there was the clumsy thing, which we've never talked about before, Kate, but is something that I am so clumsy. And actually, I really remember thinking back to my mum being my age and her being really clumsy as well. And she kept walking into things. I remember we used to go on holiday in a little caravan. And so my mum would have been sort of probably around sort of 40, certainly perimenopausal. And she constantly was bashing her head on the cupboards in the caravan. I think that coordination thing was the perimenopause for my mum, and I'm constantly covered in bruises.
Really?
Yes. I think that's definitely a perimenopausal thing. Has that started for you yet?
Not yet. It hasn't.
Okay, I'll keep my eye on you, Kate.
Oh, Zoe, I mean, Zoe's such a funny lady, isn't she?
She's hilarious.
I really love her. And she's made that sound very funny as well. I can really picture them. Picture the situation. I have just Googled it, Jenny.
Good. Come on.
Clean and jerk. Right, okay. The clean and jerk is a complex and technical weightlifting movement that requires a solid level of skill and strength.
Oh, well done, Zoe.
Yeah.
Well, she's in the SAS Who Dares Wins, actually.
Oh, my goodness. Oh,
Yes.
I'll be tuning in.
Yeah.
It is a 2-part lift that involves lifting a barbell from the ground to the shoulders, the clean.
Yes.
That's the clean bit.
Okay.
Then locking out the barbell overhead the jerk.
Oh my God.
So it was the weight
Yeah.
was going over her head and she whacked herself in the face.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Ouch.
Ouch indeed.
I mean, I don't think I could have even performed the clean, let alone the jerk. Could you? I've got zero upper
Neither
body
of them.
strength. But she's right. We need to keep exercising into the menopause. And I do have this in my mind. I have joined a gym and I have been sometimes, but I'm thinking about actually making a regular thing of it. And maybe, who knows, Kate, next time we
You'll
talk,
be jerking,
I'll be cleaning and jerking.
cleaning and jerking all around the house. I can't wait. While we're podcasting, I mean, like...
Anyway, Zoe, thank you for sharing that. And also, if you haven't seen Zoe live, go and find her and watch her. She is absolutely hilarious.
I need to do some exercising into menopause. Zoe, thank you for bringing that to my attention. I walk across the park every morning, taking my daughter to school.
Oh, steady on.
All of my wonderful friends, I know, yeah, that is my exercise. I mean, I always remember my son saying to me when because we're always late for school, and a few years ago we had to really run one morning, and he turned to me like in surprise and said, "Mum, I didn't know you could run." I'm not an exerciser, but yes, as I walk across the park every morning now with my daughter, all of my lovely friends who are of an age with me are now busy exercising. There's one of my friends runs
one of our friends
runs this exercise group, and lots of our friends are in that exercise group. And I walk past and they all sort of call out at me, "Kate, do some squats as you go by." I do need to.
Yeah. Well, one day I'll be walking across that park and it'll be you there clean and jerking.
Yeah,
that's it.
Too right. So our next letter comes to us again from one of our younger listeners. We had a letter from a teenager, I believe, previously once before. And this comes to us from Isabel. She has said that she is 17 and she comes from Leeds.
Oh, I love it when we get young listeners. Makes me feel cool.
So you are cool. Dear Jenny and Kate, I am an A-level English literature student, and currently we are studying the poetry of Patience Agbabi in our classes. I hope I've said that right. I thought you might be interested to know that our teacher recently invited our class to read a poem entitled The Change, and then asked us all if we had an idea as to what it might be about. Here is an excerpt from the poem. I realised the potatoes were missing and said it, and my mother turned, a blur of plate spinning across the room and breaking. My father said, "She's going through the change." I stared into the kitchen floor and wondered what in God's name she was changing into. After reading the poem, there were all sorts of comments and ideas put forwards as to what Agbabi might be referencing, but not one of us had any idea that the overriding theme of the poem is the menopause. Our teacher commented that she wasn't all that surprised that this was the case, especially in view of the fact that SRE lessons, including anything related to the menopause, were pretty much not taught in our school in the wake of COVID. My teacher finds that shocking, and so do I.
Oh, Kate, what a good letter.
Isn't that a great letter? Thank you, Isabel, so much for sharing that with us.
Yeah, thanks, Isabel. And I think I'm going to get on my high horse now. Why is it not being taught in schools? Why are all girls not aware of the menopause? Not only for themselves, but like this poem about their mums. You know, by the time kids are getting to that kind of age, Isabel's age, the mums are going through the menopause.
Yeah,
so I mean, everybody needs to know.
I mean, I'm thinking, you know, Isabel and her contemporaries probably do know about that the menopause is a thing, but the fact that listening to those lines from that poem to you and to me, Jenny, that's so clearly, I mean, it's so clearly related to the menopause.
Yes.
Obviously we do this podcast,
Yeah.
but it's so clear. I realised the potatoes were missing.
Yeah.
And said it, you know, the mum's forgotten that, and then my mum she turns in a rage, the plate spinning across the room and breaking, and it's so clear. And
yes,
and that not one of them, I'm guessing a fairly large group of students, had any idea that not one of them could relate it to that. And that's one of the first things to go is the SRE lessons. I mean, it's obviously very difficult for schools, isn't it, when COVID happened and so much school was missed and they had to prioritise all sorts of different things. I wonder whether that was a thing in Isabel's school and just a few schools, or whether that has been a UK-wide thing and maybe a worldwide thing, that the first thing to go has been those sorts of lessons and what has been prioritised over it.
I know.
Have the priority. It's so difficult, but...
I know it's really difficult, and of course the kids need to be catching up with all the subjects that they missed, but
Yeah.
this is a life lesson.
Yes.
This SRE, I mean, this is something that should never be missed.
I
Anyway.
agree with you completely. But the fact that Isabel's teacher had said to them in that lesson that she finds it shocking, it shows that this is not teachers who are necessarily making these decisions. Well, it's not teachers who are making these decisions. They're higher level decisions.
Yeah.
And
Probably
yeah.
decisions being made by men, just saying. Maybe. Speaking of poetry, though, last week we had that wonderful letter from Holly McComish, who was on the pill and the pill caused a stroke.
Yes.
And she's written that amazing poetry book called If Tits Could Talk. We said, didn't we, that we would read, she's got a poem in there about the menopause, and we said that we would read it out. So at the end of this episode, hold on, guys, it's going to be like one of those secret album tracks, when you have an album, there's a massive gap, and then at the end then there'll be a bonus track. Yeah, so we'll have a bonus track poem. Maybe Kate, you could read it out.
We'll read you out.
You've got a lovely voice. And we can read Holly's poem about the menopause called There's Something Wrong with Mum. So hold on for that, guys. So the last one, it's quite a short one, this one, but I think it's goodie. This one is just called Mummy's Hormones, and it's from Catherine in London. She says, "Dear Jenny and Kate, I have trained my small child, 6, only too well. It's Mummy's hormones. It's just a routine explanation for her now for pretty much anything to anyone. She told me that she'd explained to her teacher that she hadn't done her reading and spellings because of my hormones."
That's fantastic.
Yeah. Also, I was having a foul-mouthed rant about a bastard of a motor mechanic who incidentally charged us £850 to repair our windscreen wipers. And my daughter said, "Don't worry, Mummy, it's just your hormones." Thanks, Catherine. There's quite a lot to unpick in there. I kind of wish that was like 3 times the length, don't you? I want to know exactly how that rant went.
So do I. Can you write us another letter, please, Catherine?
I want to know who this motor mechanic is who thinks £850 is acceptable to repair windscreen wipers. And I want to know exactly what that girl said when she was getting out of her reading and spellings because of Mummy's hormones. I love it.
It's brilliant. I might get my own 6-year-old daughter to use that same excuse, actually.
Yes. But you know what I love about it is the fact that she, she's talking about her hormones in front of her children, explaining it away at that age. So these children, when they get to be 17 and they're studying that poem, will know full well.
They will.
Won't they? I'm just checking we are recording. Oh, yes, we are recording. Because we're technophobes, guys. I actually had a menopausal panic moment there that I hadn't actually hit record, but I have.
And because, Jenny's quite scatty.
So what do we have to say? We have to ask people to write to us if you've got any letters. We're loving getting your letters. We've had some excellent ones so far. And if you would like to be on the podcast, then you need to write to us at dearhormones@yahoo.com. And we're also on Instagram, so you can send us a message there. We are at Dear Moans. No, we're not.
Dear Moans.
Actually, we should rename our podcast Dear Moans.
Or just write it in a different way. Hormones with the ANS.
Hilarious. Okay, sorry. So on Instagram, we're not Dear Moans. We are Dear Hormones. And also everyone features today gets a badge. So, there's massive incentive there, isn't there, Kate?
Massive.
Anyway, hang tight for that bonus track, guys. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
That was Dear Hormones with Jenny Smith and Kate Bauss. If you've got a story to share, email the girls at dearhormones@yahoo.com or they're at Dear Hormones on Instagram. Until next time.
Something's Wrong with Mum. And this comes from If Tits Could Talk, a collection of poetry by Holly McComish. Something's wrong with Mum. She's not herself today. Flustered and forgetful, she seems lost for things to say. Something's wrong with Mum. She's been in a right old mood. Doesn't want to go to work and is on and off her food. Something's wrong with Mum. She's just bought some red hair dye. I'm trying something new, she snaps at me when I ask why. She's stopped stocking tampons in our bathroom drawer. Says I'll have to buy my own, for she won't need them anymore. Something's wrong with Mum. At night, I hear her crying. Can't sleep, for her sheets seep with sweat. She'll deny this, but she's lying. She lies in dark rooms with cold flannels on her head, and randomly at 2 p.m. she'll take herself to bed. She's hot and she's cold and keeps running to the loo. When I ask what's wrong, she smiles and says, "One day you'll feel this too." Something's wrong with Mum. Says she's going through some changes. I hope they finish soon. She's been like this for bloody ages. Yet over time, I start to see the biggest change in Mum. She's finally joined the gym and signed up for that 10K run. She started singing, writing, painting, dancing, just to name a few. All the things she's always loved, but said she'd never do. Although the change was hard, one that women must see through, since Mum's crossed the finish line, it's made her feel brand new. Kiss.